Hi, Rajeshwari ma'am. Hi, Kanu Priya ma'am. Good
Hello.
afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, ma'am. I hope that everything is good today.
All well.
Sure.
Okay. So hopefully our audiences will be starting to join in a bit, but we can begin with a small introduction. Okay, so I Purnima, on behalf of lawyers, we are here for another session of Enabling Future Lawyers. This series is a month-long show for chancellors and vice-chancellors of different universities to know the present scenario of legal education and how the students are preparing themselves for the betterment of the nation. This series of events is to bring out the importance of legal knowledge and how it is equipped in concern to the students. Moving forward, I would like to have the honor to introduce both our panelists today. As we were just discussing, we all are women panelists today. Today we have Advocate Rajeshwari Hariharan and Professor Dr. Kanu Priya with us. I again welcome both of you, ma'am. Let me give you a small introduction for both our panelists today. Dr. Kanu Priya is the Associate Dean and Professor of Sushant University from last 3 years. She has over 12 years of experience in the teaching field. She is an experienced professor with a demonstrated history of working in the education management industry. She is skilled in e-learning, lecturing, legal research, editing, and public speaking. She's a strong education professional with a doctorate focused in law from Punjab University. Okay. Advocate Rajeshwari Hariharan, the founder of Rajeshwari and Associates, wherein she has a demonstrated experience and knowledge of 24 years in the field of intellectual property law. She has been in the forefront of many IPR cases where she has argued several patent and trade secret litigation at the Supreme Court and various high courts across India. Her inevitable experience of over 2 decades, Ms. Hariharan founded Rajeshwari and Associates in the year 2009 as a full-service IPR law firm in New Delhi. So they specialize in patents and designs, trademark, copyright, plant variety registration, geographical indicators, besides other regulatory and allied areas. Okay, so ma'am, can you add on to those two very small introductions that we give? I think there's a lot more to talk about as we guys know you much more deeply and in detail than others. So Kanu Priya ma'am, can we begin? Can you give maybe 2 lines to us for? Yes.
So yeah, thanks Purnima. Hello Rajeshwari ma'am.
Hello.
So my motto in life is to plan and execute. Whatever comes in our way, whatever hindrances are, whatever challenges are, we must convert them into opportunities. This is the lesson that I've learned till date. Whatever I am today is my own inner strength, my abilities and capabilities, and my one approach towards life that, yes, I have acquired. It's time for others to acquire the same. So I need to transfer it to them.
Okay.
I learn, at the same time, I make others learn. This is what I can say about myself. Thank you, Purnima.
That was great insight. Thank you, Kanu Priya ma'am, for providing an insight into what you follow in your life. Rajeshwari ma'am, can you give a small addition to your introduction to us?
Sure. Anyway, thank you so much for the kind words and very beautiful, introduction that you've given about me. About myself, I would like to say I'm a person with varied interests. Law is my passion. I've been following this, and that's how I became a lawyer. And is a very special field and it's a very niche field, and I think this is a field that requires a lot of hard work. So the work that we keep doing all the time always pays off. co-litigator. I do a lot of litigations, and when we are in a way helping people to achieve their objectives. So it may be objectives, it may be just helping people to, find remedies for themselves. So sometimes we pro bono work, like I did a work where there was a patient with multiple sclerosis, and there were some other patients who couldn't get medicine. So we did some pro bono. So I mean, in life, in law, the motto is the same, because in law it is more of that, you always have to keep striving, you have to always keep pushing the envelope, and unless you keep pushing the envelope, and unless you keep pushing the boundaries of the existing law will never expand, you will never get good judgments, you will never expand the scope of law, because law is all about interpretation. It is about being in the gray and making the gray more gray or more black and white. Though law, they say, is black and white, it is never black and white, it is always gray. So I believe in this principle that winners never quit, and quitters, so you always keep trying and keep trying, keep trying and keep trying, somewhere will always strike gold. So I go by that, and I would think that I would suggest to all students, whoever are listening, and other practitioners also, that in law, if you are in law or in any field, keep trying, keep pushing. Somewhere or the other, you will always achieve your goals. And especially if you are in law, it's a vast field which is capable of so much. You can do so much for the society. There's a lot to contribute. It's always an unfinished agenda.
Correct. Thank you so much, Rajeshwari ma'am. That was, I think it's true to all fields. This can be taken as, but yes, legal field is something that is very insightful and specific in its own kind of way. All right. So let's begin today's discussion. And the very first question, we are going to begin with Kanu Priya ma'am to provide us with a little bit of insight and introduction to the question itself, and the introduction to the topic itself of what is for the Generation X, and who are today with us, or who are going to be listening to us. So is online dispute resolution the need of the hour, according to you? So when this generation looks at it in a certain kind of way, and I think that we have been taught to look at it, we have been forced to actually look at it as everything needs to be online. So what is your perspective to it in concern to when you're working with the students in this way?
Thank you, Purnima. I think it's really very simple question, Purnima. We all have learned a lot from the past 16 months.
Correct.
We can still imagine where we were in February 2020 and where we are in June 2021. So since the first lockdown, it was all shattered, like where to go, how to proceed. Then many IT resources came to our rescue, whether it be Google Meets, whether it be WebEx, whether it be Teams. And since then, it's not only we have grown, but our requirements have put a challenge to these tech companies also. Even they have grown tremendously over the past 16 months. What they used to offer way back in February 2020, they are offering the advanced version of those technologies to us today. I think the lesson is very clear. Where there is a will, there is a way. And will arises from the need. It was the need of the hour. If we don't have food, we cannot stop eating. I think all of you know the earlier story of the survival of the fittest. So we have to find out ways and means how to grow, how to continue with our work. We used to hear, like in developed nations like US or UK or Australia or other countries, that there are video hearings happening in the courts. I have done a lot of research on, immigration and Indian diaspora who is living abroad. And the biggest challenge before those people was how to present ourselves in the courts when we are not physically present. I remember it was way back in the year 2005, the first case where the Supreme Court allowed the virtual hearing. That was the first case. And now we are presuming that, okay, fine, the hearings will become virtual in any way. Yes, that is the future. We have to go with virtual execution of all our responsibilities, at least for now. Even though we are opening up now, there is a bit of relaxation, but we cannot do without online. That is for sure. And for times to come also, even if we open completely, we have to follow this blended model. In fact, this has come as a rescue to the large plethora of cases which are pending in the courts. And when we talk about technology, we always talk about generation next, Gen X. You remember last year in April when the lockdown was announced? There were very important hearings in the courts. The matters were kept on lingering. But there was a question that came upon the old advocates because they were not very friendly with the technologies. That was the time where Gen X supported the elderly. I hope Rajeshwari ma'am would also agree to my viewpoint that it's always the youth who always teaches us something new every time we work with them. So Gen X is very much capable. If we talk about older generation, they need to undergo certain training programs to learn these technologies. But Gen X is inbuilt with that training and they can easily adapt to new changes. So that is going to be the future of lawyers in future.
Yes, correct.
And for that, it's very much essential to, I'm talking from academic perspective.
Right.
It's very important to inbuild that system of ODR into your curriculums as well.
Yes.
So when we talk about Gen X, we must talk about how to further train this Gen X to adapt to the new system of profession, to the new platform.
Correct.
So in my school, we have already taken steps that we have revised the curriculum to inculcate those skill sets in the students. And even UGC now says that you can easily offer 20% of your courses through online mode. So while they study online, it's a blended form of learning. They will also easily adapt to the blended form of professional expertise.
Right. Correct. So yes, Kanu Priya ma'am, you're very, very right that a large part of, so because everything was offline at one point of time, we had never expected that legal world could be disrupted in such a way in concern to technology. Rajeshwari ma'am, would you like to add on to the practicalities of this system itself when we walk further towards, from the student field to actually practicing as a lawyer? Rajeshwari ma'am, are you on mute by any chance? Because we can't hear you. Okay, all right. In the meanwhile, okay, yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Rajeshwari ma'am. Please continue.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. Please continue.
All right, go ahead. So I said that, you on
Okay, I think Rajeshwari ma'am is having some technical issues. Kanu Priya ma'am, we can move on to the next question so that when Rajeshwari ma'am comes back, we can actually continue with the discussion.
Sure,
Uh,
please.
there's another question of course, in continuation. What is the role of, what do you think is going to be the role of advocates in the ODR mechanism in concern to these students converting forward, or you yourself, because you understand law in multiple ways, not just as the legal part of it, but also as the educational part of it. And I think beginning of ODR mechanism actually it begins from understanding what ODR is and how to practice this or how to bring this in practice. So, what is your perspective to how can advocates and what is going to be the role of advocates in the ODR mechanism?
So basically, advocate is the most important pillar of the justice system in India.
Right.
They are the ones who have to carry forward the case, and they are the ones who have to bring the parties to the court and go for the redressal mechanism. It starts from the advocates. If the advocates are well versed with the ODR mechanism, so certainly, when we say that yes, we are moving towards the online dispute resolution mechanism, then certainly we have to structure that accordingly. And uh, I think the government has already initiated a new set of rules and regulations, because as per the report of Niti Aayog, which was submitted in October 2020,
Correct.
a lot toward the ODR mechanism. So they have already given certain guidelines to the judiciary. They have already, created a set of rules and regulations which are in the form of recommendations and pending before the. We are going ahead towards lot many things. So I can, pinpoint few of the things which are already recommended by them. They are trying to increase the physical access to the infrastructure. That means we digital infrastructure here. So you might have observed that till date, not all the lawyers they have access to digital infrastructure, or not all the courts are well equipped with digital infrastructure. We might be seeing the courts in, metros or in high courts. But if we talk about the lower judiciary is largely lacking in this digital infrastructure. So we need to strengthen this digital infrastructure right from bottom to the top. Secondly, in addition to the infrastructure, digital literacy is very important. And this is what I was earlier also focusing upon, that if we talk about the students need to be equipped with all those digital requirements which are required to be implemented in the profession once ODR comes in place.
Correct.
And that can be done only in the schools during their curriculum. So if we are imbibing the curriculum with this digital literacy programs, then certainly they will be able to apply that at the time of profession. So this is something which is not new. We have been doing it earlier, but earlier what we were doing is imbibing the practical skills during the time of their learning process. But now the practical skills which are required to be imbibed will include digital literacy as well. And another feature which is very much prevalent in India categorically, because when we talk about India, India is unity in diversity, we all know. And we have to reduce the digital divide in this diversity. What is there in the rural areas and what is there in the urban areas, there's a huge gap between that. We need to reduce that gap. Although COVID has given a huge lesson to all of us, we are trying to reduce this digital divide, but this is also one of the ambit wherein the government is coming up with real regulation. So if you talk about this reducing the digital divide, NSDC, National Skill Development Corporation, is working largely on this area. So what they are doing is they are bringing industry with the educational institutions, and they are giving projects, live projects to the students where this particular gap is reduced. So they have already collaborated with Microsoft, Salesforce, and so many other companies, the tech companies, which are aimed at reducing this particular divide. Another thing which I would like to, emphasize here is that we need to strengthen our existing legislative framework also. Although new IT rules are in place, but they largely control the social media platforms. But if we are bringing this practice into various offices of the government, especially the legal profession, then we need to create a set of rules and regulations for them to regulate. We cannot leave it to the privilege or to the prerogative of those officers how to regulate it. So this diversity has to be really tackled with. The rest, I think Rajeshwari ma'am can highlight the practical point of view, how the advocates can place really themselves well in the ODR mechanism.
Yes, so Rajeshwari ma'am, let's continue with the question. And I think that we talked about the role of advocates in the ODR mechanism. And previously we were talking about, how this online system itself is the need of the hour, and in what ways in terms of practicality. So, uh, yes, you can continue.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I was saying that we already had started off with the e-court system, and some judges had adopted to it, and we already have the files all scanned up and all that. But our judges and our judiciary never thought that we can actually have hearings which is without being physically present. That was totally out of consideration. So this has come up as a new thing, and I think the judiciary as well as the lawyers have very quickly and easily, very nicely adapted to it. Yes, there have been glitches. There are some lawyers who have found it very difficult to adapt to the new mode, because when you're arguing before the court, especially when it is a live court, there is an eye contact with the judge. You're also able to hand over judgments. You're able to say so many things, and of course, you can say the same things here also. But there was a different atmosphere altogether. There was a kind of physical connect with the judge, physical connect with the entire proceeding. So that is missing here. That element will always remain. So there are a lot of lawyers who had found initially that technology is a big challenge, and that they did not initially, this whole online virtual hearings were never appreciated by a large number of lawyers. But slowly and steadily, people observe that yes, you can even get connected through mobiles, you can get connected through various devices, through various, and now it has become the order of the day. In fact, apart from Delhi, Bombay, and some of the metro cities, the district courts were having a big challenge in adopting to this new system. But now I find that even the lawyers in those places are very happy with the virtual system. In fact, they are demanding for a virtual system. And the virtual system has lots and lots of advantages. A person in Delhi can attend to matters in Chandigarh, in Chennai, in Hyderabad, all on the same day, which was absolutely not possible otherwise. You can also you can also attend hearings at tribunals as well as at so many courts, all on the same day, which was totally inconceivable in the pre-COVID era. So therefore, a lot of it has brought a lot of changes. But I think that lawyers are slowly and steady this. We are having new technologies. There are new startups who are coming up with new platforms. Of course, some of them have to be yet tested and scaled up. But it has given a lot of opportunities in that direction. So another argument that had come up, in the last March 2020, when the COVID struck and courts decided to go virtual. Argument was that well, maybe people in Delhi can afford it, perhaps people in Bombay can afford it, but the district court people cannot afford it. The district court lawyers cannot afford it. So justice, there is no equity in access to the justice, and justice must be easily accessible to everyone. What about the common man, the lowest man in the rung? So those glitches also have to some extent been solved, because I have seen over the last 1 year, 1.5 years, that in district courts also we are able to perhaps through mobiles or otherwise somehow connect to the common man also, and they are able to come on board, and therefore they are able to participate in the system. There is a lot of transparency that the system has introduced, because if the the lawyers can no longer say that there was an adjournment because the judge was not holding court. It is all transparent. It is there for everyone to see whether the judge was there or not there. So those kind of things are all gone. And I would say that the Gen X lawyers have an advantage over this, because they are sort of already into the technology, so they don't need to sort of specifically adapt to it. But yes, they also need to do a lot of hard work in this, because here you need to collect your files electronically and assemble them electronically, be able to navigate through your files quickly and seamlessly. So that's a skill that comes with time, which perhaps the Gen X people can adapt to very quickly, perhaps more easily than the older generation of lawyers. But apart from that one little thing, I think a lot of senior counsels, senior lawyers, even judges have very easily adapted to it. A lot of judges are still insisting for the court files to be present with them physically, because perhaps original documents, if you need to see them, that you cannot see them electronically. You just need to see the actual notarized document or the actual sale deed or whatever. But apart from that little part, the rest of the things can be done through ODR. In fact, all you will be surprised that all of the mediation proceedings in the Delhi High Court is entirely virtual. Even today they are conducting it entirely virtually. There's no, when in between, in from around August till around February, when the court started functioning in a hybrid fashion, the mediation center was still virtual. So all mediation proceedings are conducted virtually. People from abroad are able to participate in the entire proceeding. So it has been quite fantastic, I would say, and it's been a very good change. So we should not say that there has been a kind of a barrier. I would say the future has already arrived. It is only a matter for us to distribute it equally and evenly among the people, distribute it within the district courts. So we've achieved that in the Delhi High Court, you've achieved that in the Bombay High Court, you've achieved it in a couple of other high courts. Now it is time for us to spend the next few years or maybe next few months in trying to distribute this infrastructure equally, make it more accessible to the district courts across the country, because it will really bring a huge change, because there are district courts, and that's perhaps where we need this most, because in the district courts you have a lot of common people coming there, and if things are made available to them through their mobiles or through whatever little means that they have, it's going to be a game changer. So we must spend our resources, our infrastructure. Government should focus on that in developing the infrastructure in the district courts, so that their lawyers and the people there are more equipped, and this becomes across the board, a completely unique phenomenon where entire country is virtual. So there's a lot of data which will be available: how many cases are disposed, how many cases are heard, for how long was the matter heard. Such a lot of metrics, data, everything can be gathered. It is phenomenal. Phenomenal, I would say.
Correct. Yes. So, as Rajeshwari ma'am is talking about that, how the impact of physicality might have suffered during these times, but we have been able to fulfill the gap that would not have been possible so exponentially as we have been able to do this during the COVID-19 time. And yes, as Kanu Priya ma'am said, that we need to fill all those gaps wherever required, and I think that it is we would be able to because of the speed with which uh, we have still coped with the situation at hand. All right. So we come to the next question, and the question is how Generation X values are impacting the legal workforce or workplace. So I think that Kanupriya ma'am, of course, has a direct, uh, you have direct
You
access
presume
to
to you presume
how.
to say that yes, we are imbibing the moral values or the ethical values or the professional values in the students, right?
Uh, yes, so it is kind of no. In general terms, what kind of values are we talking about when we are talking about Generation X? Because as we talk about in personal or on personal level also, the values have changed with time.
Yes.
And in Generation X and Z also, there's a huge difference in terms of the value addition that we are able to provide them, or how the times have changed. So yes, Rajeshwari ma'am and advocates like Rajeshwari ma'am have been in touch with Generation X lawyers in terms of beginning from interning them to hiring them. But before that, it is the universities who are on a huge scale interface with the students on day-to-day basis, and kind of they are able to understand the many details that a common person might not be able to understand in concern to the legal industry and what is going on, beyond what we can see.
Yeah, Purnima. Actually, everything changes with generation.
Yes.
And we always used to say there is a generation gap between the parent and the son. That is true. There's always a generation gap, and this will always remain. But rather than putting it as a blot on the relationship, we can use it as a benefit. I'll share a very simple example with you. Yesterday, actually, my father, he's also in, practicing profession. He's a retired judicial officer. He was to appear in a particular hearing in the court and he was to argue the case. He was not very much friendly with, all these platforms. He's 74, 75 plus. And I said that, it's very easy. You can easily do that. Just download this on your phone. So he downloaded it on your phone. I also downloaded it on my phone. I sent him the meeting invite and did a demo.
Right.
These kinds of values are required to be inculcated in the present generation, that you don't have to run alone. You have to run together.
Right.
As we all can witness, there's a lot of peer pressure system in the universities, especially in the professional education. Students say, no, 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 he will go forward. I will be left behind. I have to rush. But in order to create those values that they are able to not only walk together, but run together, grow together, and succeed together, we need to impart those values into them. Various schemes like, mentoring scheme or peer tutor scheme that we already have here in my school at Sushant University, wherein a group of students is created and those students, they help other students of the class, whether it be reading material, whether it be access to assessment criteria, whether it be access to references. So when this particular habit is inculcated in the students right in the very beginning, they'll continue with the same practice even in profession.
Right.
So in profession also, it's not that they have to argue the case, it's their case, they have to argue it and that's it. Sometimes they have to be generous towards the other party also, the opposite party. So this is really very important to, I know nowadays, the students will not wish you, will not greet you, will not do you the way that we used to treat our teachers in our times.
Correct.
The times have changed. So we also have to change accordingly. So we used to imbibe other kinds of skills during our times. Now the skill set has entirely changed. And especially over the past 1 year, it has further changed.
Correct.
So we need to blend that particular model into the curriculum through practice so that the student who passes out from the law school is well fitted into the profession, not only as a person, as a professional, but as a teammate as well. So that is really very important for the students to understand.
Yes, and I think that the students have also changed. I think that my parents always told me the kind of students they were and how more mischievous nowadays the students have become with time. And the teachers should be thanked enormously for the way that they are handling the complexity of.
And Purnima, sometimes we have to counsel the parents also.
Correct, correct.
We understand that the student is right, but the parent is forcing the student to do something which he is not capable of, or the student doesn't have interest into.
Correct.
So we do the counseling on the other side as well, so that a proper balance is maintained and the actual interest of the student is reflected in whatever he achieves in life.
Correct. And I think that the professional values in a country like India do not just come from the university they're studying in or the school, but also from home. Because we are so, the family value itself is so very important and comes first hand. Okay, so to continue with Rajeshwari ma'am, I would like to tweak the question a little bit so that, we are able to understand the legal perspective to it. So the question is, why should law firms pay attention to Generation X lawyers? It could be in terms of values, but more than values. It should be now, we talked in terms of not just values, but also their professional incubation and how are they to be, helped in terms of growth and also understanding professional terms to which they have to work in.
So I will deal with this, a little bit differently. There are three angles to this. In the good old days when we had physical, presence of people in the firms and physical presence of everyone in the law firm, and everyone was there around each other. So there it was a time when you could actually see the person. You gave him perhaps for a weekly list of things to do or a monthly list of things to do, and you had a way of daily monitoring him, because he or she had to sort of report to that particular senior in the law firm, and then their work was thus monitored. But now that if now it's online, so there is people in the law firm who are working from home. There are interns who come and who are working from home, and of course we have this virtual courts. So when it comes to interns who are working from home, then they have to now shift from a physical level of learning to self-learning. And I say self-learning, there is a lot of emphasis on self-learning because law firm will give you a certain assignment. It is for you to work on that assignment, to apply yourself to that assignment and fulfill it. You cannot, like in a physical world, go to your senior every 2 minutes and ask him, what is this, what is that, what was this, what can you please explain this particular concept to me? You cannot keep calling that person every now and then because they are also busy. So there are challenges of that nature. So there's a lot of self-learning. So in the earlier times, when you had a physical office and physical interaction, where your self-learning must have been about 30%, now it should be more than 70%. So that's one challenge which the interns must understand. So the people who understand it are successful. Those who don't understand and take it casually will suffer. This is a reality. Second thing is with regard to Gen X kind of lawyers who have just passed out. I find that because in the last 1 year, 1.5 years, there's been a lack of physical presence, and because they've been working from home, studying from home, they have probably taken some of their subjects, a little bit, more easily than they would have taken up in a physical class. Because in a physical class, perhaps you are very much attentive and pulled up for being non-attentive. But in an online class, perhaps it's a little more it's not so strict. I'm not too sure. I don't attend the classes. I do not know, but I'm assuming so. But let's assume that the classes are strict, and the student has studied very well. It's again, when you are working from home, you have to apply yourself more, because when there is an assignment given to you, it is for you to apply yourself, learn through various resources. Now, because the firm's library is not available to you, it's only the internet resources, so you have to do your own research. Perhaps fix a time with your senior to talk to him, understand the concepts, and then thoroughly apply yourself to that particular assignment, whether it is preparing a brief note, or preparing a written statement, or a plaint, or research paper, or whatever that assignment is. You have to apply yourself much more, do a lot of more self learning than you would have done in a physical office environment.
Correct.
But there is a very good advantage that the Gen X people have, is with regard to e-filings, because now all the courts have gone up to e-filings. They have resorted to e-filings. So you have platforms where courts are now encouraging people to do e-filings. So the Gen X lawyers are very good at that, because they understand how to get these things done very easily. And of course, e-documentation, they are very good at that as well, assembling and navigating through the documents, and on information technology, how to deal with it. So they are very good at that. So that's an advantage that they have. But at the workplace, they are required to apply themselves a lot more, if that's my assessment, than they would have done otherwise. Because otherwise, people would have perhaps monitored them and say that, look, you are not performing very well. We have no place for you, or they would have probably corrected him. There would be a course correction. But here, there might be some kind of a slack in that, because every person cannot monitor another person forever. So there is a lot of self learning that they need to do. That is some message that perhaps all these young children and young kids who come into law firms need to understand that.
Correct. And I think,
I just want to add on here, Purnima,
of course,
to what Rajeshwari ma'am said on self-learning. When we talk about students in the university, so they have a multi-dimensional approach in the university. It's not only that they are studying here. Professional skill is one, which is purely aimed at enhancing legal education. But on the other side, their leadership role, their organizational skills, and their implementational skills makes them become entrepreneurs. Uh, you might have witnessed a lot many examples in your own organization, Purnima. Lloyd is full of all the entrepreneurs, I would say.
correct.
I have seen Sahil Chopra, who is working for Lloyd, the way he has grown from being a law student to what he is today.
Correct.
That kind of confidence is required to be built in the students.
Correct.
How do we do that? Multiple committees in the school, multiple clubs in the schools. Let the students organize all the activities.
Right.
I'll just share a simple example with you. We established the Rotaract Club at our university last year in the month of May 2020. So it was purely a lockdown period. So from May 2020 till June 2021, wherein they submitted their final annual report to the Rotary Club, they've already conducted more than 40 activities during the lockdown period.
Right.
Whether it be teaching underprivileged children, whether it be planting trees, whether it be art therapies, whether it be painting sessions, whether it be blood donation, whether it be COVID vaccination camp, they've done it all. So, let students utilize their entire potential. From there, they emerge as the leaders, and if they're true leaders, nobody can stop them to settle in the profession successfully. Right.
And you're right. And I think that it is not just legal knowledge or anything else. There's a lot of personality development that happens with practical knowledge also, right?
Yes.
So when personal understanding, it might be any job opportunity. It might be you working in a legal technology-based startup, or anybody working in a law firm itself as a lawyer. I think personal experience is something that somebody should learn from the most, and they should go back to their own personal experiences. Because if I am inspired by Rajeshwari ma'am, I would not want to follow each and every aspect that she does. I should be inspired by the things that I can see and that can be imbibed in me. But I cannot be a 27 years of experience of person, because she is herself today, and you are a doctor today because you have had two 20 plus decade, 2 decades of experience with you guys, and that has developed you to come, here. And that is why the journey matters a lot. It might be at university level. I think that it helps a lot. The students who actually do not participate in all those it might seem very tiny at that point, that it might not matter that much, but it does matter when it comes to your confidence. And as we talk about maybe mock courts or anything else in the field. And yes, it helps you a lot when you come to the practically working with a law firm. But yes, a law firm also gives you a very, very different experience in terms of professionally working in the field, because there is a whole system that you have to. There's kind of an unset protocol that needs to go on, and because that's silently followed in a certain kind of way that makes it so smooth. I think Rajeshwari ma'am would agree with me, as she said that everything was disrupted, but then e-system came in, and then everything was much more transparent. There were some pros, and yes, there were some cons. And I think with the physical system also, there's a lot of cons, especially in a country like India, where we have a lag of uh, millions of cases that are still pending in the courts. So yes, that's true. I think one of the questions has been asked, and it's a very academic question, has been asked by one of the students, and I would like to take this up, and I think that then we can maybe sum up the session. The question is, I think Kanu Priya ma'am, maybe you would be able to answer this. The Bar Council of India has notified that mediation with conciliation shall be a compulsory subject to be taught with effect from the academic sessions. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I still remember the day, Purnima, when we were having our Board of Studies meeting last year. So just a day before the meeting, we received the letter from the Bar Council of India that this is one compulsory course that you have to offer.
Correct.
So, but if we check with good universities, they're already teaching the students, alternate dispute resolution.
Right.
I think somehow or the other, I will not shy away from saying that our government is moving far from what we are moving today in academics, especially in private universities, because private universities, they have the flexibility to change their curriculum every year.
Correct.
I'll be happy to share we are offering honors, 8 specialized courses we are offering in honors, and these are advanced courses, not the normal core courses that a law student studies.
Right.
For example, international trade law, international commercial arbitration in the corporate sector,
Right.
contract drafting. And if we talk about constitutional law group, the students are studying, immigration and citizenship laws. This is my core area.
Right.
Writ jurisdiction, legislative drafting, they are studying.
Right.
So, these are all advanced courses. Mediation and conciliation has always been a part of the curriculum in the form of alternate dispute resolution.
Right.
But my question is, why only mediation and conciliation? We are moving far ahead of that. Why not negotiation? Negotiation is the next form of redressal of disputes in times to come. It has been largely practiced in foreign countries, in developed countries. I am offering that as well. And that too from Harvard. And the form of online course. Now that's the kind of approach the universities should have these days. We have to move ahead. NEP 2020 is already in place, and we have to go ahead of what NEP 2020 says.
Correct. Correct.
Just to add on to this,
Yes,
you
Rajeshwari
know,
ma'am, what is your take on that?
yeah, just to add on a line, to what Priya has said. Mediation, of course, mediation and conciliation. I guess the reason why the Bar Council has passed a resolution that they should be taught in universities is they want that lawyers should be aware of this kind of situation, this kind of procedure right from the beginning, and lawyers have to act not just as lawyers singing the song of their clients, but act as officers of the court. So when you are acting as an officer of the court, and when you know that your client is in the wrong, and if it is possible for you to achieve a resolution of the dispute, then that's something you must endeavor to. So that's probably the reason that principle has to be inculcated in the students. So we, of course, universities like that of the Sushant University and so many other universities never teach the students that you must always sing the song of clients, and you should always take their brief whether they're right or wrong. That is not what people teach them. But then, practically speaking, you're an officer of the end of the day. So when you're an officer of the court, it is your duty as well, quite like the court, to ensure that dispute is resolved rather than being festered for years together. That's why this, the legal profession as well as the judiciary gets a bad name. That my case is pending for tens and thousands of years. Yes, it will be pending. If you're going to take adjournments forever, it will be pending. It will be pending for next 100 years also. There will never be a resolution. But a resolution can be achieved through mediation, through negotiation, as Priya is saying. And these are issues that need to be taught to a person so that they are equipped with this practical knowledge as they come into the profession. And so when they come in and when they see the disputes, they can immediately say, oh, okay, here is a dispute which really can be resolved, perhaps through mediation, perhaps through negotiation. Perhaps we should take it to mediation in the beginning itself. This is a practical tip and a thing that they can offer to the client on the first day. They can tell the client that yes, there is a procedure for mediation in the Delhi High Court, and there is a procedure for mediation in so and so court. Let me do this in this for you. So the client is also very happy. Ultimately, client is never interested in festering the dish for tens and thousands of years. That's really not his goal. It's his goal and his endeavor to resolve the dispute as soon as possible. There are very few, if there are 100 disputes, I would say there are just about 20-30% of them who want to sort of gain time and they want to actually keep the dispute going. But there is a large number who actually want the dispute to be resolved, like in a partition suit. They want the dispute to be resolved between brothers, between sisters, between the family. Who wants to keep it pending? Or it's in a family, it's a divorce. They want the matter to be resolved and just move on. So I think this is a very good opportunity which universities are now going to be teaching. I think it's a very good opening that will come up.
All right. Yes, that's true. I think that we have heard about the same perspective. I think Nikhil Diwan would have had his answers sorted in terms of professional understanding of the same thing, and of course in terms of being a student. Okay, would you so Rajeshwari ma'am and Kanu Priya ma'am, would you like to give any last thoughts about any topic that we might not have discussed, because you've already surpassed our time? Would you like to say some last words concluding maybe something that you might have missed and you would like to add on? So let's begin with Kanu Priya ma'am.
Okay. So my last take here is, out of the entire discussion, I think, again, I'll be talking about the same thing. Since Rajeshwari ma'am is from the practical side and from the academic side, the ultimate result can be achieved only and only if both the academic and the practical side, they join together, and the universities open their doors for the practical resource persons to imbibe those practical skills. Because ultimately we are academicians. we don't have that kind of exposure, or maybe the updated exposure of the practice arena. So that thing is really very important for the students show, because even till date, if we see what the students learn in the universities and what they practice out in the courts, not only in terms of knowledge, not only in terms of procedure, but also in terms of professional adjustment, there is still a gap. And we are aimed at reducing this gap. And for that, Gen X lawyers are the most compatible and are the most adaptable to bring that change. So I hope the industry partner will always stay with me, and we will certainly bring that change in the Gen X.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Rajeshwari ma'am, would you like
My
to add on
conclusion,
to what?
sure. Yes, yes. Just a couple of lines I would like to say. I think
Yes.
this system of virtual hearings is here to stay. As I said, future has already arrived. We have to only evenly distribute it and make access to justice more equitable. So, number one is persuade the government to spend more resources and ramp up the infrastructure in the district court. That will be really a big incentive, and it will be a very big advancement in our justice delivery system. After all, justice delivery system is nothing but a service to the people. So if the service to the people is very efficient, people will start believing in the system rather than taking law into their own hands. So why do we find that a lot of people believe that, okay, it doesn't matter, I will commit the crime, I will do this, I will do that. You have vengeance deaths, you have people who have taken revenge deaths. You have all these things. All of this will reduce. So if a person knows that the criminal justice system is going to give you results within months, a rape victim will be able to get justice within months. So you will actually find the number of really going down. Similarly, in civil law, if you find that if there is a property dispute, it is going to be resolved within months. Then you will find people saying that, look, I'm going to pay, I will have to pay damages at the end of the day. The matter will be resolved so quickly. What is the fun in trying to dispute with my brother? Let me resolve it with him. Let me talk to him and resolve it quickly. So therefore, efficiency in the system, will actually bring down the number of cases. We don't realize that. We always say, oh, there's a huge backlog, there's a huge backlog. But this is the opportunity for us, to reduce the backlog and make sure that, the justice delivery system becomes far more efficient. And I would say that, the hybrid system is here to stay. We will go back to physical hearings because a lot of lawyers love physical hearings. Nothing can substitute a physical hearing, with the court, especially when you have long arguments with the court. So physical hearing will be there. It will, there is no substitute for that. But of course, hybrid hearings will have to take place. There will have to be virtual hearings, especially when there are short matters or matters which can be resolved quickly, median or some such thing. Then virtual hearings will have to take place. So I guess in the going forward, we will need to have a hybrid system where some of the matters perhaps can take place through virtual hearings, and some of the hearings will of course be physical hearings, subject to normalcy returning. And ex lawyers will have to adapt to the system very quickly. They are already into the system, and they will have to do a lot of self learning. And I would say that Gen X lawyers are very much suited to this new hybrid system. So I guess with this combined effort of Gen X lawyers as well as the experienced lawyers, we will have a more efficient system in the future. Then.
Correct. Hopefully that the Gen X lawyers have more pros when they're joining the system in comparison to the cons that we might think of with the coming of the pandemic itself and all the other exponential changes that have come up due to the same. Thank you so much, Rajeshwari ma'am and Kanu Priya ma'am, for giving us amazing insights on the working of the new system uh, and how we can, uh, not just we are not supposed to be undermined by the same, but we need to come up and we need to walk the paths of working towards a better system. And of course, and I think it is going to be easier for the Gen X students to do so. Uh, okay, so okay, somebody just posted again from Facebook. Virtual or physical will not take much time if the parties willfully make some groundwork for their cases. Okay, so
See, this is a fact. Purnima, this is a fact. See, whether it's a
Right.
physical hearing or a virtual hearing, what the comment is that it will not take time. See, in virtual hearings, time is allotted to you. That you are given
correct.
1 hour, half an hour, and you can actually tell the person that, look here, you got to prepare yourself. You are going to be heard between 2:30 to 4:30. You must finish your argument at that time because I don't have any further slots with me.
Right.
And in physical hearings, of course, you need to come prepared for every hearing, whether it is physical or virtual. But in
Right.
physical hearings, you would have come and you would have said that, well, I'm going to argue something today between 2 and 3, and then perhaps I will continue another day. That might just not be possible in a virtual hearing. In a virtual hearing, you have to argue between 2:30 to 4:30. You must finish it at that time. So
Correct.
that compulsion comes with a virtual hearing. Also, in a virtual hearing, you are required to do more preparation because you have to prepare your compilation, give it to the court in advance. Otherwise, in a physical hearing, you were carrying the whole bunch and you would hand it over across the board. So those things, perhaps, it makes you more organized. So I agree that you need to work hard for both of the hearings. Yes, you need to both do the groundwork before you come. There can't be a hearing where you never do your work and come. You need to. But in a virtual hearing, you're compelled to do further work,
Right.
which
So,
is good, which is makes the system more efficient.
right, right. And good for Kanu Priya ma'am, because she was just in the beginning of the session, you were talking about how the research work is extremely important and how you guys are working on the same. And I think that, yes, as Rajeshwari ma'am just said, that your research should be, fully factored out when it comes to virtual
It's
hearings.
all about your preparation. It's all about your preparation. And
Yeah, in
also
fact,
to
judges get annoyed when you come to the court and you're not prepared. In a physical hearing, they would say, all right, they would perhaps accommodate you in some way. But in virtual hearings, they are very, very annoyed because they are taking up urgent matters. And you come to the court without being prepared, without reading your brief. You really get you know, you get a big piece from the court. It's very embarrassing.
I believe in India that's the major reason for piling up of the cases.
Yes.
So at the same time, virtual will give us space to manage the data in very less space, which otherwise, the courts use a hefty amount of space to manage the data. So
Correct.
that
That's
that can
very
also
correct.
be addressed.
And to begin, I think we have had multiple conversations with Rajeshwari ma'am over how data privacy is the another concern that might lead to more topics in concern to everything getting virtual and on post that. That is not the topic for today, but but Rajeshwari ma'am specializes especially in understanding how cybersecurity laws work to that fact. So yes, thank you so much, Rajeshwari ma'am and Kanu Priya ma'am, for being with us here today. I think we got answers to a lot of questions, and the session was amazingly, I think, not just very mundane, but also was fun. It was very easily under. I think any student who would like some insight into what are the do's and don'ts and what are the new, maybe they're not well aware of the systematic aspects of what is happening in the pandemic world when it comes to legally filing cases, or in terms of research, they got great insight into that. So thank you so much for being with us here today. um, I yes, so everybody is saying thanks, and Kishore, thank you so much for giving us multiple truths. And yes, uh, thank you so much. We are going to be here again with you guys. It was amazing talking to you, uh, and we can end the session for today.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting.
Yes.
Thank you.